So joining me today is Jasmine Bazinet-Phillips, one of our Post-Bacc Premedical students, just finishing up our Post-Bacc Premedical program and starting to work towards MCAT preparation on your path to medical school. Jasmine, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk first about you are going into the hospital on, I don't know if it's a daily basis, but quite a bit in two different areas that you're working in. One is in the NICU, in the prenatal ward and area, and the other is a research project that you work on that interacts with the emergency department. Two kind of very different experiences, I would imagine. How often are you going in, and how often are you kind of dividing those duties?
Yeah, so for the emergency department, actually, my role has gone remote, and it has been remote since the beginning of kind of the COVID-19 happenings. But in the ED, when I'm working remotely, we only really actually have one study rolling right now, which is the START Treatment and Recovery Study, STAR study for short, and that's for people who have opioid use disorder. So coordinating care with primary care providers in the community. And then we also are doing some COVID-19 research, kind of being led or spearhead by nurses, and then also physicians in the ED that are kind of seeing everything firsthand. The patient flow during this time has kind of mainly turned to respiratory distress, and it's kind of been a little bit slower than usual, but kind of more concentrated in terms of the chief complaints. But for me, I'm just remote, and that's kind of, for the most part, like a daily basis, because it's a little bit more of a flexible kind of work from home thing. And I go in the mornings to the kind of labor and delivery newborn nursery floor. And that's where I'm screening babies for hearing. And I do that kind of like 3 to 5 days a week. And I do in the morning, and it's the way that the job works. It's depending upon like how many babies are born and how many babies are ready for screening. And that's kind of how it works. So starting last week, we started to get our temperature taken. And we do that every day. And we also have to verbally state if we've had any symptoms. So we go through that checkpoint every day before walking into the hospital, which is a little bit different.
You're essentially done with your post-bac courses, and you're now kind of moving into that growth year where you're taking the MCAT and you're just gaining more experience as you prepare applications for medical school. Has this experience confirmed more for you, or renewed the passion that you have for medicine going through a learning experience as a post-bac student applying for medical school in the midst of a pandemic?
Kind of because the post-bac program is just so fast. You're taking all these intense science courses, and then you're just gearing up to go to medical school. So then it's kind of like you just wake up and you're like, whoa, I'm done with all the prereqs. Like, here we go. So there's definitely been some time of like reflection. But as kind of I read about things, and as I continue to like research COVID-19 and just learn a little bit more about the virus with what's coming out, there's definitely just a larger urge and desire to get into the field and help. Like, this is the time when you can apply medical knowledge to help our society. And that's kind of like the forefront of how we can help right now. So I really cherish the moments that I'm able to help with research by applying my newly found skills. And the absence, or really like the absence of a cure or vaccine for COVID-19, also draws me closer to my passion for medicine, because I'm constantly kind of just trying to read and learn more. And yeah, it's a great time for research, but it's obviously not a great time for many other things. But it's definitely, I think everything's really truly up in the air for the medical school admissions process. So when I say great, it's like maybe not the best word choice here, but it's definitely confirms like that I want to be in this field and I want to help.
Walk us through just your background in terms of your schooling and what you did and how you ended up here, so close and on your path to become a doctor.
Yeah, so after graduating from college, I went back home to Baltimore, Maryland, and I taught in an early childhood classroom. So I taught kindergarten, first grade, and fourth grade, and I was a teacher for Teach for America. So I was very, honestly, I still am very passionate about educational disparities. And so even during this pandemic, I've of course been keeping up like on COVID research and like the medical side of things, but I've also very much so been tied in and tuned in and to like what resources are out there for students right now, what kind of disparities are there going to be in terms of work, working from home or learning from home. And so I've been very tuned into that. Um, and so also I have healthcare disparities that I'm very interested in because I saw that in my classroom. So I kind of did 3 years of Teach for America, started to really dive into ensuring literacy for all my students because I saw there were great gaps. And those are the foundational skills that you can really kind of hone in on as an early childhood educator. And so I kind of like was just reaching out to creating different partnerships and reaching out. And then I realized that there was a role that kind of pediatricians play. And then I kind of dived a little bit deeper into medicine. And then I started to kind of think like, well, pediatrics, you get to see the babies, the moms kind of on the first day of life. And so I was like, in kindergarten, I felt like we were already too behind. So I was just kind of like thinking, okay, so let me think about a role. Let me think about kind of learning a little bit more about the internal mechanisms to ensure that everyone has the foundational skills to be successful. So I decided to apply to the Post-Bacc program in my third year of teaching, and I'm really actually happy. I applied to a couple different programs, but I'm really happy that I ended up at UVM because UVM's program is a little bit different than the other Post-Bacc programs. A lot of the Post-Bacc programs kind of function kind of on like a undergraduate, or they have a graduate campus, but they don't have a hospital right next door. And so with UVM, you have that Post-Bacc program, and like, yes, you're with undergraduate students, but you're also have this amazing opportunity of just diving into the hospital right away and being in the clinical setting. And so had I gone to the other Post-Bacc programs, which I was looking at, I don't know if I would have been able to say right now, I'm going into the hospital every day, getting my temperature taken. I'm doing kind of front lines research concerning the pandemic. So that's kind of where I started and where I am. And I'm really interested in kind of the tie between the educational health disparities.